Very good afternoon. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi successfully concludes his visit to Dubai for COP28, proposes hosting 2028 UN climate talks. PM Modi unveils Green Credit Initiative at COP28, calls for rich countries to transfer technology to help developing nations combat climate change. World leaders pledge more than $500 million for climate mitigation. Israel-Hamas resume operations after ceasefire ends. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says humanitarian pause ended because of Hamas. And in chess, Vaishali Rameshbabu becomes India's 84th grandmaster. She is the third Indian woman to achieve the grandmaster title. All right, now news in detail. We'll start with the top story. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi successfully concludes his visit to Dubai for COP28. Highlighting the key moments, PM shared the video on his social media platform X. The video includes the glimpses of the bilateral meetings, interaction with global leaders and his summit speech focusing on contribution of all countries against the climate change.
कि विश्व कल्याण के लिए सबके हितों की सुरक्षा आवश्यक है, सबकी भागीदारी आवश्यक है।
On his successful visit, Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra said the Prime Minister had the opportunity to discuss ways to promote clean and green growth.
Prime Minister highlighted 6 key points. First, India's ambitious climate action targets and the rapid progress that the country is making in its achievements. 2, priority that India has accorded to and the concrete outcomes that the country has achieved on the climate agenda during India's G20 presidency. 3, need for climate justice. 4, need also to assist the Global South in addressing a problem that is not of their making and that they did not contribute to making. 5, need for a resolute climate action that is decisive, based on unity, more balanced, ambitious and innovative. And 6, India's readiness to host COP33 in 2028.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed COP28 high-level segment where he launched Green Credits Initiative. The new initiative focuses on creating carbon sinks through people's participation. PM Modi called for energy transition across the world, which must be inclusive.
With the aim to adopt planet-friendly living practices, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Green Credit Initiative at the high-level segment for heads of states and governments during the UN Climate Conference in Dubai. The new initiative focuses on creating carbon sinks through people's participation.
आज मैं इस फोरम से एक और प्रो प्लैनेट, प्रोएक्टिव और पॉजिटिव इनिशिएटिव का आह्वान कर रहा हूं। यह है ग्रीन क्रेडिट इनिशिएटिव। यह कार्बन क्रेडिट की कॉमर्शियल मानसिकता से आगे बढ़कर जन भागीदारी से कार्बन सिंक बनाने का अभियान है।
Prime Minister attended a session on Green Credit Initiative. India, along with Sweden, Mozambique and EU, launched the web portal of Green Credits program.
आज हम एक ग्लोबल प्लेटफॉर्म भी लॉन्च कर रहे हैं। ये पोर्टल प्लांटेशन और पर्यावरण संरक्षण से संबंधित आइडियाज, एक्सपीरियंसेस एंड इनोवेशंस को एक जगह पर कलेक्ट करेगा।
Emphasizing collective efforts to combat climate change, Prime Minister asserted that India has made serious efforts in this direction.
India is one of those very few countries which has managed to meet its NDC target, that is the nationally determined contribution targets, and has been a role model in this COP. It has managed to strike a deal between economy and ecology.
Prime Minister also proposed to host the UN Climate Conference in 2028 in India.
भारत यूएन फ्रेमवर्क फॉर क्लाइमेट चेंज प्रोसेस के प्रति प्रतिबद्ध है, इसलिए आज मैं इस मंच से 2028 में COP33 समिट को भारत में होस्ट करने का प्रस्ताव भी रखता हूं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also took part in the Transforming Climate Finance session. PM urged the developed nations to increase the fund for climate.
हम उम्मीद करते हैं COP समिट से क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस से जुड़े अन्य विषयों पर भी ठोस परिणाम निकलेंगे। ग्रीन क्लाइमेट फंड और एडॉप्शन फंड में कमी नहीं होने दी जाएगी। विकसित देश 2050 से पहले अपना कार्बन फुटप्रिंट जरूर खत्म करेंगे।
Indian Prime Minister also called for maintaining a balance between mitigation and adaptation. During the session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi engaged in candid conversations with world leaders, which included UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe, Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa of Bahrain. Tapas Bhattacharya, Shishir Salar reports for DD India.
And addressing another session, Lead IT 2.0, Prime Minister said that Lead IT initiative was launched in 2019 to boost the innovation and technologies. He said all the countries of Global South should get benefits of this initiative.
2019 में शुरू किया गया लीड आईटी हमारा साझा प्रयास है ताकि इंडस्ट्री ट्रांजिशन को बल मिले, लो कार्बन टेक्नोलॉजी और इनोवेशन को गति मिले और ये जल्द से जल्द और आसानी से ग्लोबल साउथ को भी मिले।
A new fund to help compensate countries suffering from climate change was established at the 28th meeting of the COP28 as it opened in Dubai on Thursday. On second day of the summit, several world leaders pledged for global climate solutions.
More than 70,000 delegates from around the globe gathered at the 28th session of COP28 in a bid to work out a worldwide solution to the pressing climate issues facing the planet and all mankind. UAE's Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology announced that this year's conference will focus on climate finance challenges.
And we see, as you see, that the world has reached a crossroads. I pledge that I will run an inclusive and transparent process, one that encourages free and open discussion between all parties.
A new fund to help compensate countries suffering from climate change was established at the 28th meeting for the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The announcement was seen as a major breakthrough at this year's conference. Calls to renew the fight against climate change were also made at the event.
We have been working very, very closely with other Transitional Committee members this entire year in order to design an effective fund that is based on cooperation and does not involve liability or compensation. And we're very much committed now to work with our Congress to provide $17.5 million specifically towards the Fund for Climate Impacts Response that will help vulnerable countries to respond to the impacts. But we also expect this fund to be up and running quickly.
UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan began the summit by announcing the establishment of $30 billion fund for global climate solutions, specifically designed to bridge the climate finance gap.
I am pleased to announce the establishment of $30 billion climate fund around the world, which was designed to bridge the climate finance gap and to obtain it at a good cost. The fund also aims at encouraging the gathering of the fund and investment of $250 billion by 2030.
Meanwhile, Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak pledged $2 billion in funding at the UN Climate Summit, an attempt to bolster green credentials after watering down Britain's measures to reach net zero targets.
We're leading the world in new industries like offshore wind. We're protecting nature at home. So we've got a great story to tell. And I'll be announcing £1.6 billion of funding to help lots of other countries make that transition.
On the sidelines of COP28, several bilaterals were held. Israel's President Isaac Herzog met the President of the UAE, Mohammed bin Zayed, while Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani met with Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
Updates now on Israel-Hamas conflict. Multiple rockets were seen flying over an area near the Israel-Gaza border as Israel resumed operations to neutralize the threat posed by Hamas after the end of truce between them. The White House singled out Hamas, saying it had failed to produce a new list of hostages to release the enable an extension of the truce. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says we are determined to do everything we can to get everyone home and to get them reunited with their families. Listen in.
We're determined to do everything we can to get everyone home, to get them reunited with their families, including pursuing the process that had worked for 7 days. We had 7 days of a pause, 7 days of people coming home and being reunited with their families. So we're on that almost hour by hour. But meanwhile, we've also been very clear that we support Israel and its efforts to make sure that October 7th never happens again. We've also been very clear about the imperative of doing that in a way that puts a premium on protecting civilians and making sure that humanitarian assistance gets to those who need it.
Now, updates on Russia-Ukraine crisis. Russia launched 25 drone attacks on Ukraine overnight, killing 1 person and damaging a warehouse and farm equipment as per the Ukrainian military. While Ukraine downed 18 of the drones, all but 2 of them in southern Ukraine. 1 civilian was killed and another injured in attacks on the southern Kherson region. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a decree to increase the maximum number of servicemen in the Russian armed forces by 170,000 people. The regular strength of the Russian armed forces is now set at 13,20,000 servicemen. Now, Slovak road hauliers have blocked the country's main border crossing point, with Ukraine joining Polish protests. They are demanding the European Union reintroduce a permit system for Ukrainian competitors. Polish drivers have been enforcing a blockade on Ukraine's border since November 6th, causing hundreds of trucks to pile up on the Slovakian side of the border. The drivers are demanding the EU to reinstate a limited number of permits granted to Ukrainian companies and European truckers to operate in the bloc. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Brazil decreed a state of emergency in the northeastern city of Maceió due to the imminent collapse of a rock salt mine owned by Braskem. The Maceió mayor's office declared a 180-day emergency, forcing the evacuation of 27 families. The local authorities warned that other nearby neighborhoods could be affected by the threat of mine collapse. An automotive star of the Martin Scott's film The Wolf of Wall Street is up for auction as sold buyers in New York. The white-on-white Lamborghini Countach is rare, with only 12 of its kind believed to have been made. It is expected to fetch $1.5 to $2 million when it goes up for sale on December 8th. This car was used in a couple of driving scenes with Leonardo DiCaprio. And British primatologist and ethologist Jane Goodall, known for her research on chimpanzees and environmental activism, unveiled her wax statue at Paris Ig-Driven Museum on Friday, says it reminded her of the best days of her life. And the spire of Paris Notre Dame Cathedral has been reinstalled, a key part of the reconstruction process. The cathedral was badly damaged in a major fire in 2019, and during that blaze, the spire collapsed through the fallen roof of the building. DD India's Ross Cullen reports from Paris.
The fire in April 2019 was devastating. The roof of the cathedral going up in flames and burning for hours as the city and the world watched, fearing if one of France's most famous monuments would be completely destroyed. The blaze broke out in the early evening and caused extensive damage throughout the medieval Catholic cathedral, though the fire service did manage to save the two huge bell towers. Later that same evening, the president addressed the nation, pledging to rebuild the cathedral in just 5 years. Now, despite the new spire still being encased in scaffolding, it's some 96 meters high and made of oak, the authority overseeing the rebuilding process does say the spire will be visible before Christmas. Now, the new spire is identical to the old one, which was designed by 19th century architect Viollet-le-Duc. You can also see behind me lots of cranes, and there is a lot of reconstruction work still to be done, including rebuilding the nave inside the cathedral. And it's only after that is finished that the reconstruction work of the roof can begin. Notre Dame de Paris, or Our Lady of Paris in English, was founded more than 850 years ago and is seen as a symbol of the country. In August, the President, Emmanuel Macron, said that the cathedral would fully reopen on December the 8th next year. In Paris, Ross Cullen reporting for DD India.
All right, time now to take a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. North Korea says interference in its satellites would be declaration of war. Details after the break. Indian government convenes all-party meeting ahead of the parliament session.
Operation Zindagi has now become a kind of a copybook example of how to manage a disaster operation in our country.
In the next 1 week to 2 weeks, we'll have all the inputs coming in. Then there will be a meeting of this. There'll be an analysis and a full synthesization of all the things which have happened. And then we will draw out the lessons, publicize them, and look for guidelines for the future.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. US lawmakers have expelled Republican George Santos from the House of Representatives. Santos was expelled on charges of criminal corruption and misuse of campaign funds. The 35-year-old congressman became the 6th member to be expelled from the House.
The question is on the adoption of the electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
The top defense officials from the United States, United Kingdom and Australia hold a joint press briefing to provide an update on the Australia-United Kingdom-United States security partnership. During a briefing, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said by implementing strong standards of technology protection, they are reducing barriers to sharing information and technology.
And through Pillar 2, we have leveraged our respective defense innovation and industry sectors to develop and deliver advanced capabilities so that our warfighters can hear, see, and act with decisive advantage. And by implementing strong standards of technology protection, we are reducing barriers to sharing information and technology. And we're streamlining our processes to deliver these capabilities and lead our partnership forward for the next generation.
South Korea says its first military spy satellite has been placed into orbit on Saturday following the successful SpaceX rocket launch. Seoul confirmed that the satellite's communication was established with ground control. South Korea has launched its first domestically developed spy satellite by SpaceX Falcon 9. The launch was carried out from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base after North Korea successfully launched its own military reconnaissance satellite last month. The Elon Musk company also put on a live stream of the mission. North Korea has warned that it would consider any interference with its satellite operations a declaration of war, after the US said it had capabilities to deny North Korean satellites space capabilities through multiple means. North Korea also said it would mobilize its war deterrence if any attack against its strategic assets were imminent. Pyongyang launched its first military spy satellite on November 21st, which transmitted photos of military installations in the US mainland, thus escalating the tensions further between the two countries. The United Nations Security Council unanimously voted on Friday to remove the final restrictions on weapons deliveries to Somalia's government and its security forces, more than 30 years after an arms embargo was first imposed on the country. The Council put the embargo on Somalia in 1992 to cut the flow of weapons to feuding warlords who had ousted dictator Mohammad Siad Barre and plunged the Horn of African country into civil war. The 15-member body adopted two British-drafted resolutions, one to remove the full arms embargo on Somalia and another to reimpose an arms embargo on Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab militants. A 5.6 magnitude earthquake jolted Dhaka and adjoining areas in Bangladesh on Saturday morning. The tremors were felt in Dhaka, Chattogram and some other parts of Bangladesh. So the earthquake lasted for a few seconds, according to the Bangladesh Met Department. The quake had a depth of 10 kilometers, with the epicenter in Kumila district of Chattogram division, bordering the Indian state of Tripura. Tremors were also reported from Sylhet, Kulhuna and Rajshahi divisions. Fortunately, there have been no reports of loss of life or property from any part of Bangladesh so far. Now, the Indian Space Research Organization has achieved another milestone as it activated second instrument on Indian solar spacecraft Aditya L1. Sharing an update on the mission on Saturday, the Indian Space Agency said that the Aspects payload on board India's Aditya L1 satellite has commenced its operations and started performing normally. A sample histogram image was shared by the Indian Space Research Organization, illustrating the energy variations in proton and alpha particle counts captured by Swiss over 2 days in November 2023. Aditya L1, India's first dedicated solar mission, was launched into space on September 2nd from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in India's Sriharikota. Indian President Draupadi Murmu is on Maharashtra tour. On the last day of a tour, President Draupadi Murmu attended the 111th convocation of Rashtrasant Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University in Nagpur today.
आज आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का उपयोग हमारे जीवन को सुगम बना रहा है, लेकिन डीप फेक के लिए इसका उपयोग समाज के लिए खतरा है। इस संदर्भ में नैतिकता से युक्त शिक्षा हमें राह दिखा सकते हैं।
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the participants of Vikas Bharat Sankalp Yatra through virtual mode in India's Aligarh. The scheme of the Indian central government are being taken to the people through 7 LEDs in the district. India has showed commitments to awareing people about various benefits of welfare schemes like Kisan Samman Nidhi, Ujjwal Yojana. In fact, Ujjwala Yojana, Ayushman have been availed during the Yatra. India's Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi held an all-party meeting of floor leaders in both lower and upper house of the Parliament on Saturday. The meeting, which was attended by prominent BJP leaders and top ministers, including India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, aims to finalize the legislative business to be transacted in the upcoming winter session of the Parliament that begins on 4th December and will be extended up to 22nd December. The government has outlined 18 bills for consideration during the session. The report of the Ethics Committee on the cash for query allegations against Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra will also be tabled in Lok Sabha on the first day of the winter session. India's Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Pandey, Chief of Naval Staff Admiral R. Hari Kumar and Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary laid wreath at the National War Memorial during a homage ceremony ahead of Navy Day. India's Navy Day is celebrated on 4th December every year in India to acknowledge the role of the Indian Navy and commemorate its achievements in Operation Trident during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. Celebrating 50 years of diplomatic relationship between India and Korea, an India-Korea Friendship Night was organized in New Delhi by the Korean Embassy and Korea-India Friendship Society. Owing the popularity of Korean dance and music in India, the event witnessed a cultural performance of K-pop cover dance group from Korea. Sports now. Vaishali Rameshbabu is a chess grandmaster and has become India's 84th grandmaster. She is the third Indian woman to achieve the feat. Vaishali and Pragyananda are officially first ever sister and brother duo of grandmasters. Vaishali started with 2 consecutive wins in the Elo Bregat Open in Spain. She crossed the 2500 rating mark to become. In the second round, she defeated Turkish FM tamer Tarek Selbes with the black pieces. Vaishali scored her first GM norm in the Extracon Open 2019. Her second GM norm came by winning the 8th Fisher Memorial in 2022. She scored her third and final GM norm at Qatar Masters 2023. And paving the way for Christmas cheer, the Nuremberg Christmas market opened for visitors on Friday. The picturesque market is a much-loved staple in Bavaria and gets visitors from far and wide. The city has elected its own representation of the Christ-kind and angel-like figure since 1948, who traditionally is believed to deliver Christmas gifts to children in the southern parts of Germany and other European countries. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.